Hi, we're back again. Welcome. I'm Aileen Dashrova, and this is my friend Lissa Black Fassett, and we have done two clips talking about her son Darby and his death 5 years ago from a heroin overdose when he was 23 years old. So we've spoken about what that was like for Lissa. We've talked a little bit about the ease and freedom and the prevalence of heroin for our young adults and our high school students. We've talked a little bit about building community and perhaps why people do drugs and the sensitivity to life and the world that addicts can feel. And today we just want to talk briefly about how we came to just jump up and do this. We had talked about it for a while, for years, how Lissa could bring her life experience into a larger format to support other people going through it. And she'll talk a little bit about why that didn't happen until this moment. And what I can say is how this started is that I was at a lacrosse game, and a friend of mine started talking to me about a friend of hers whose son is 19 years old, and they suspected was maybe doing heroin a little bit. And I said, well, you don't usually just do a little bit of heroin. And so we talked to great length, my friend and myself, about my experiences and some of the truths about heroin, and that these friends of hers, the difficulty in coming to terms with that this is what their son was doing and what this journey would look like. So I came home and had received an email from my friend, which was an article, and Lissa's going to speak to that in a moment. And I read it. The friend of the friends wanted information, like what was my reaction to it. And I was like, well, what are you looking for as far as reaction? What does this person want? And then I immediately forwarded the article to Lissa, and I said, Lissa, it's time. It's time to speak out. And so, we're acknowledging that obviously we don't have like a fancy background. We're like leaning and pushing a button, and it takes us about 2 days to figure out how to get it on a YouTube. So we're not super skilled at this. However, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And when you're supposed to do something, you're supposed to do it. And I think our society sets it up that if you can't do it perfectly, if people aren't going to kind of like I talked about in our last clip about the affirmation piece, we just delay and delay and delay. We delay our lives because we don't think we're good enough, or we're not getting prompted enough. Well, this piece that Lissa's going to talk about prompted her to say, okay, I think it is time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, cool, you got an iPad?
And which, unbelievably, I did have, considering my level of technological expertise. But I did, and this is our product, and this is
it.
Because it is time. And so the article that Aileen sent me was from the New Yorker, and it's called "Ending the Secrecy of a Child's Addiction" by Bill Williams. And it's a very emotional, powerful piece. And when Aileen said that it's time, it just kind of, yes, it really opened my eyes. And I just wanted to read. It was an article about this man and his family's experience with the death of their 22-year-old son, I believe, or 23-year-old son, from a heroin overdose. And I don't think that this had been going on for a long time in their lives, but they were already facing, everything that goes along with that. And he addresses in this really beautiful article about what the family goes through and how much do they reveal to people, how do they support their son, how, and this ended up in his overdose. And this is something obviously that it just, when I read this, it just hit me in the gut. It was like a punch to the gut. And I just wanted to read the end of this article, and this is what really did it for me, to get the iPad out and to say something about this.
Yes. Yeah.
It just after this very eloquent, beautiful, really, and honoring his son and what they went through, and he writes at the end, I knew when I gave a eulogy for William that there were addicts in varying stages of recovery among us, fellow sufferers there to pay tribute. Perhaps hearing about William's struggle and our ordeal was useful to them. I hope so. What I do not know and can only wonder about is how many more stories remain untold. They need to be told. Secrecy and anonymity are part of the disease for addict and family alike. And I have been feeling this way, and especially in my work with Aileen, in my healing through this with Aileen, that this is exactly what I've been coming to this for a very long time, and it's taken me 5 years. 5 years to feel that indeed it is time, that this isn't just an idea, this isn't just a nice idea, it isn't just a, yes, wouldn't it be nice if somebody did that? Well, I'm that somebody, and I'm one of everybody. Well, he really nailed it. How many stories are there? Well, there are tons of stories. I know there are. I know that I have uncovered stories like this just in my dealings with my own little circle of friends and acquaintances and things that I do around this, and just not even around specifically, addiction kinds of things, but just because I talk about this, and it took me a very long time to really feel comfortable with this. And I went through the same things as this family did. My husband and I both did. Were we going to? What were we to go to? What would in his obituary? Are we going to mention that? Oh, we want to keep the secrecy because we want to protect him. And I think we went over this in another one of our videos. And of course we rejected that immediately because that isn't any kind of way to honor him at all. But it's taken me a very long time to be able to step up and actually, to say that I am one of those stories, and I don't have the answers. I don't think this writer is saying that he has answers either. But it's in our sharing of this and getting this out of the closet, getting the secrecy part of it, and the shaming and the secrecy, and how do we protect our children? How do we talk about this? And I just wanted to step up because of this article. I'm stepping up, and I want to offer my story and encourage other people to feel safe to do that, because it's very, very empowering to do this. You can't imagine what I don't know what the word is, but what a sense of not relief, but kind of a release of anxiety and just kind of turning this towards a sense of healing and love, which is what it is when we share our stories and create a new story around this. I mean, that's really what we need to do. So that was my response to this article, and it's kind of why we're doing this. Really, it's here's my story. What is your story? And we really welcome any kinds of responses to this, and stepping up to in any way you can. You might want to write about it. You might want to paint a picture. You might want to do community service. I don't know what. There's so many ways to do this. When we brought up the tag word heroin, just to see when we put this up on YouTube, we know who we want to reach, but how do you do that? What are the words? And when we put in heroin, one of the first stories that came up was one that I confronted 5 years ago. I live in Massachusetts, and literally the week after my son died, there was a major story in the Boston Globe about how accessible and cheap and available and what an epidemic heroin addiction is among college students, young people, my son's age. They were talking about him. We brought a story up yesterday and looking at I think this was in Louisiana. That's right. It's everywhere, and exactly the same story.
Saying the same things we're saying.
The same thing.
And parents being surprised, and again, the same issue, this sort of safety net of, it happens over there. And again, as we've said, really? It happens over there, so we're going to act like those people don't, the people that live in those neighborhoods don't matter? Absurd. and then people waking up to say, well, guess what? It happens here in these suburban areas. This is where it's going on. I mean, this article, Lissa's story was from 5 years ago. This article is dated May 19th, 2013. Mm-hmm. This just happened. And Bill Williams is writing about in his, and we welcome you to look for it, Ending the Secrecy of a Child's Addiction. And he's talking all about his story. Mm-hmm. And all the things that they did for their son. And I mean, it's a great article. We hope you get a chance to read it. And it says, yes, his son William accidentally overdosed shortly before his 24th birthday. 6 weeks of comatose and or heavily medicated hospitalization. And then he didn't make it, and he talks all about it. And what I think too, and Lissa was just hitting upon, is that this author, Bill, was so surprised at how many people stepped forward. Not only to accept them, even if they didn't have an addiction that they were aware of or dealing with, but regardless of that. And that really blew away this author, Bill Williams. And I think some of the positive things about coming out, number one, if we don't talk about these things, we perpetuate the stigma. By us being embarrassed about anything, whether it's mental illness, addiction, it doesn't matter. We perpetuate society's ability to keep that way over there. We're over here, and we're like, we're super normal. And it's like, well, no, there's no such thing. So by talking about it, we actually elevate and raise up the reality of the diversity on this planet, which includes addiction. That's part of this planet. That's part of humanity. It's been that way for a very, very long time. And then the other part is that we can discern then who our friends are. We can discern who we want to be with. As I spoke in the last clip about the 5 steps of building community. And one of them is, again, the most important is affirmation. So you can tell who do you want to talk to about your son or your daughter's addiction, or your sibling's addiction, or your parents' addiction, or your spouse's addiction. Go to those places where you are heard, where you're understood, where you're loved, where you're empowered. Those are the people that you want to hang out with in your life. And the people that you can't tell, you're afraid to tell when you're ready, those aren't the people that you necessarily want to hang with. Those aren't the people that aren't going to support you and raise you up and be there for you during these somewhat challenging times when you're trying to figure out how to live your life with a very active addiction in your close family circle. Mm-hmm. So there's so many really important parts of this article that, again, triggered for Lissa to say, okay, I'm going to do it. So the other thing we wanted to show you is, again, just do it. Just get out there and do it. Even if you have no background to your space, even if you don't know what to wear, even if you have to put your glasses on and off because you got to be able to read. Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what that message was like a call to me. It was like he was asking me to step up.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I took it and chose to relate to that. And none of that matters. It doesn't matter that I have a crinkled linen shirt from last year. I own up to that. It doesn't matter. It matters that we face each other and look at each other.
Tell the truth.
And love our children. We love our children. I love my son. He loves his son. We still do. That doesn't change anything. In fact, that is a motivating factor for me, and I know it is for him. Mm-hmm. And that's why I really, really recommend that you find this. And again, it's called Ending the Secrecy of a Child's Addiction by Bill Williams. And I believe it was in the New Yorker. You can Google it and I'm sure find it.
Yeah, you'll be able to find it. Yeah, which is great.
So I think that the more stories we get through whatever media you choose or whatever, is going to be very helpful to all of us. Yeah. And actually doing something about this, this is the first step. It's acknowledging it and sharing your story and know that we're in this together. And
when you step up and talk, you're going to find out you're really loved.
Yes.
You're going to find out you're really loved.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So we'll see you next time in our next clip. All right. Button.